Hi there, I'm Holly Wilson, working at Lightbend. I'm based in the UK, just outside of London. And I've been remote working for around 8 years now, which is really fortunate in the current situation, that I'm used to it and I kind of know how to handle it and how to survive better than some of my friends and family and colleagues. So just wanted to try and share a few little tips that I find really useful, and it helps me keep focused and productive. So the first thing I would say is when you start your day, particularly at the moment when there are so many other things to sort out if you have children and such like, is you need to start your day getting yourself showered, dressed as normal, but wear something that you wouldn't be ashamed of if you were to be seen in an office environment. Make yourself look presentable. If you're feeling good and clean and made up and ready for the day, your attitude definitely will shine through that, and your brain just tends to be in a different gear. If I were to sort of, lay around in my sort of, tracksuit and t-shirt and not wash my hair and maybe not put any makeup on, my brain wouldn't quite be in the right frame of mind to be in a work environment, and that's how I feel, and I'm sure that will help any of you that are not used to it. Also, now I'm a single parent, so I'm homeschooling also, so I need to make sure so I'm not distracted from my work, which I need to remain as focused as ever on, that my daughter has enough to stimulate her for decent periods of time, so that I know I've got a good chunk of time to be able to get tasks complete in my workplace. So setting her up for a few hours at a time is definitely key. So having a sort of schedule in mind, having some activities set up for her in advance definitely helps, so that I know that I can start my day without sort of being distracted early on. The other thing is that I also like to have music playing in the background, certainly when I'm not on calls. I personally just like 80s mix stuff, just happy music that keeps me in a happy frame of mind, nothing too heavy, or obviously with explicit, in case somebody happens to log into my call and I forget that I've got some sort of hardcore rap, which isn't my thing anyway. But yeah, be mindful of what you're listening to if you are on calls. But certainly, it's nice to have that sort of in the background, sort of it keeps you kind of company in a funny sort of way. So that's another tip. But also, I find that having a sort of a structure for my day is really helpful. Normally, I mean, I'm currently actually in my kind of kitchen dining area, because I do need to be able to hear my daughter if she needs me and that sort of thing. But it's really handy if you have the space at home to have a dedicated area in your home, whether it's just a corner in a space if a room isn't sort of available. I have a room upstairs, which I'm really lucky to have, which is sort of my spare room for guests. And I have a desk there, and it's set up with all my sort of information that I need to hand, so I can grab things easily. And that just takes away the distraction of being in a normal home environment where, like I am at the moment, things are calling me. I've got a fridge there, snacks are there. Probably would drink more coffee down here, and also just I'm available for my daughter to interrupt. So obviously, in a normal circumstance, I wouldn't want that to be the case. So I would normally just sort of take myself off and sort of that's my area where I'm not really to be disturbed. So that's another big tip. Also, breaking the day up for a little bit of time out, whether that means for you having a bike ride or doing some gym work, some running if you have like a treadmill. I don't have any equipment and I'm not really an avid exerciser, but I do like to do some yoga stretching, more than anything, just for my own personal reasons. I have back problems, and so sitting in one position working, which can become not just for an hour or two, but sometimes I'm sat here for sort of 4 hours without getting up. You do need to stretch your body out and make sure that your posture is always being rechecked. Make sure you're on the right seat. Um, that's really important. Have yourself a comfy area to work in, because the more you sort of dread being sat at your workstation because it's not comfortable or it's not a particularly nice space, um, that's not going to make you productive either. So hopefully, if you are in a more comfortable seated position and you've got a nice area to work in that makes you happy and it's nice and light, again, that will help. In terms of, sorry about that, in terms of food, again, for someone like myself, I'm a massive foodie, and I really battle with eating. As you can probably see, I do like my food, and I have to be really careful with that being at home because, again, being as a parent, there's often food that isn't great for me to be eating, but obviously it's what children might love, you know, crisps, snacks of any sort. And so the list goes on, and especially at the moment where we're having to get what we can, there's more in the house than there normally would be. So again, I'm not really exercising a perfect example of this, but try and sit away from the kitchen area, where temptation is in your face all the time, and try and have set times where you actually have your breakfast prior to sort of starting up. You've got your lunchtime booked out, so you're not going to take calls during that time, so you have a time to step away from your work area, and actually eat your food at a pace that's not rushed, or distracted. It's just some time away to have some headspace. And then, of course, hopefully by dinner time you'd be shut down by then anyway. But really try and have your 3 meals so you're not tempted to snack, and don't for any reason have like a bundle of food just around you, around this desk area, to sort of pick at through the day, because that is just going to be a nightmare. I'd say that the final most important thing for me, and it's not something that I practice, but now saying this openly to people, it will make me do it more. It is blocking out the time that you're not available for calls, whether they're external or internal. It can become really, there's no real structure to working at home. You can work as much as you want, or obviously as little as will allow. But most of us are inclined, especially in this industry, and if it's a company you're passionate about, you know, it's very hard to switch off. And you know, I often find myself that I've switched off the laptop, but I've got everything else available, you know, be it iPad or my iPhone, and I don't turn off notifications for my own personal reasons. And you know, you see something at the corner of your eye, a LinkedIn things come up, or a notification from Google Mail, or and I can't help myself but to look, and I feel absolutely then that I need to respond immediately or act on it immediately, and I tend to do that. And during this time where it's going to be even more important to have family time if you are working from home, to connect with your family, and also, you know, have chats with your friends and whatnot, you do need to make sure you've got that time to be able to do that. So I would suggest blocking out, you know, the times that, you know, maybe put your kids to bed. So no, you know, 5 till 7 or 5 till 8, whatever works for you. Block that out so you actually really are reminded to turn everything off and to not become distracted. You know, we're working in a company that obviously we have employees all over the world. Time zones are totally different, and so, you know, when I finish work, traditionally a lot of my colleagues are just starting, so it's really common to be getting lots and lots of messages just as I'm shutting down. They don't expect responses straight away. I need to tell myself that, you know, you need to make sure that you've got that separation. Otherwise you will go slowly insane. So help me work on that, and let's do that together, but make sure that you have got that time where you really do remind yourself to switch everything off and take some time for yourself. I hope some of this is helpful, and inspiring, and that we get through these next, hopefully, few weeks rather than months, but this next period of time, in a more positive way, and that we remain really productive, and probably more so, you'd be surprised. So stay safe, everyone, and thank you for listening.